Donald John Trump. The name evokes a torrent of emotions and opinions, ranging from admiration to opposition. Rarely has a figure elicited such polarized reactions, captivating the world with charisma and controversy. Born in Queens, New York City, his journey from real estate mogul to president is uniquely American, a story of ambition, resilience, and challenging norms, leaving a mark on the nation's fabric. Trump's life is marked by triumphs, setbacks, and reinvention. Rising in the 1980s as a flamboyant businessman, his name became synonymous with opulence. His ventures and personality made him a media fixture, his life a subject of public fascination. His empire faced turmoil, bankruptcies, and legal battles. Yet, Trump remained a master of reinvention. Tapping into celebrity and media power, he became a household name. His reality TV show The Apprentice cemented his public image, showcasing his business acumen to millions. This cultivation of his image was key to his political aspirations. In 2015, Trump announced his candidacy for president, sending shockwaves through the political establishment. What began as a long-shot bid gained momentum, fueled by economic anxiety and cultural resentment. His unorthodox campaign defied conventional wisdom, upending the political landscape. The enigma of Donald Trump. To understand Donald Trump, we must delve into his formative years. Born into wealth in Jamaica Estates, Queens, Trump was the fourth of 5 children. His father, Fred Trump, was a successful real estate developer. Trump attended the New York Military Academy, excelling in athletics. He later studied at Fordham and Wharton, earning a degree in economics. After college, Trump joined the family business, the Trump Organization. His first major success was the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Manhattan. This project cemented his reputation as a savvy developer. Throughout the 1980s, Trump became a symbol of opulence and extravagance. Trump's business ventures brought him wealth and notoriety, but also criticism and controversy. His lavish lifestyle drew accusations of arrogance. His aggressive business practices faced scrutiny. His personal life became tabloid fodder. Despite controversies, Trump remained captivating. His resilience added to his mystique. He cultivated a persona of a self-made man. This image resonated with disillusioned Americans. The 2016 presidential election will forever be remembered as one of the most divisive and consequential in American history. It pitted Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman and reality television star, against Hillary Clinton, the former Secretary of State and First Lady. The campaign was brutal and divisive, marked by personal attacks, accusations of wrongdoing, and a torrent of misinformation and disinformation. Trump's campaign was unorthodox and unpredictable, defying traditional political norms. He eschewed traditional campaign infrastructure, relying instead on large rallies, social media, and free media coverage. He tapped into a vein of anger and resentment among white working-class voters who felt left behind by economic globalization and cultural change. And he effectively exploited racial and ethnic divisions, demonizing immigrants and Muslims. Clinton, on the other hand, ran a more traditional campaign, focusing on her experience and policy positions. She campaigned on a platform of continuing the policies of her predecessor, Barack Obama, and expanding access to healthcare, education, and economic opportunity. However, she struggled to connect with voters on an emotional level, and her campaign was dogged by controversies, including the use of a private email server while Secretary of State. On election night, Trump defied the polls and expectations, winning a narrow victory in the Electoral College, despite losing the popular vote by nearly 3 million votes. His victory sent shockwaves throughout the United States and the world, signaling a major shift in American politics and ushering in an era of uncertainty and division. Donald Trump inherited more than just wealth from his father, Fred. He inherited a keen understanding of New York City real estate, built on connections and ruthlessness. Fred Trump built affordable housing in Brooklyn and Queens. He was known for his frugality and navigating bureaucracy. Young Donald was drawn to Manhattan's glamour, far from his father's blue-collar roots. He envisioned skyscrapers and his name in gold. This ambition created tension in the family business. Fred saw real estate as providing housing for families, Donald saw it as a stage for his name. Despite differences Donald learned from Fred, he absorbed Fred's knack for securing subsidies and tax breaks. He learned the importance of relationships with politicians. These lessons were invaluable for his ambitions. Donald's ambition often outpaced his father's caution. He chafed under the constraints of affordable housing. He yearned for headline-grabbing projects. This desire for recognition drove him. It led to increasingly ambitious ventures. Donald Trump's early real estate success was built on his father's foundation. Fred Trump provided capital, connections, and guidance. Donald's first major project was renovating the Commodore Hotel. The hotel was in debt and in a struggling neighborhood. Donald saw potential in its prime location. He secured a tax abatement and partnered with Hyatt. The project transformed into the Grand Hyatt New York. It established Trump as a major real estate player. The Grand Hyatt showcased Trump's deal-making skills. He leveraged political connections and promoted his successes. Trump became known as a master negotiator. His autobiography, The Art of the Deal, cemented this image. If the Grand Hyatt announced Donald Trump's arrival as a force in New York City real estate, Trump Tower, completed in 1983, cemented his status as a cultural icon. Located on Fifth Avenue, one of the world's most expensive shopping destinations, Trump Tower was more than just a luxury condominium building. It was a monument to Trump's ego and ambition. The building's distinctive design, featuring a 6-story atrium adorned with pink marble and brass fixtures, exuded an air of opulence and extravagance. Trump Tower was more than just a building. It was a carefully crafted stage for Donald Trump's public persona. He maintained his personal office and residence in the building, further blurring the lines between his private life and his public image. The building's atrium became a favorite haunt of celebrities, socialites, and media personalities, drawn to the spectacle of wealth and power that Trump cultivated. The construction of Trump Tower was not without controversy. Trump's demolition of the Art Deco Bonwit Teller building, which previously occupied the site, sparked outrage among preservationists. His use of undocumented Polish workers who were reportedly paid less than minimum wage and subjected to hazardous working conditions led to lawsuits and allegations of exploitation. Despite the controversies, Trump Tower was a commercial success, with its luxury condominiums commanding top dollar. The building became a symbol of the 1980s, an era of conspicuous consumption and unbridled capitalism. It also served as a powerful marketing tool for the Trump brand, reinforcing his image as a purveyor of luxury and success. Flush with the success of Trump Tower, Donald Trump set his sights on Atlantic City, New Jersey. In 1977, New Jersey legalized casino gambling, hoping to revitalize the city's fortunes. Trump saw an opportunity, envisioning a string of casinos bearing his name. His first casino, Trump Plaza, opened in 1984. It featured marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a lavish entertainment venue. Both casinos were immediate successes, drawing large crowds. However, Trump's success was built on a mountain of debt. He financed his casinos with junk bonds, carrying high interest rates. Trump's ambition in Atlantic City ultimately proved to be his undoing. By the early 1990s, Donald Trump's business empire was showing signs of strain. His Atlantic City casinos, burdened by debt and facing increased competition, began to struggle financially. His other ventures, including the Trump Shuttle airline and the New Jersey Generals football team, also failed to live up to expectations. Trump's personal life was also in turmoil. His highly publicized divorce from his first wife Ivana played out in the tabloids, further tarnishing his image. Despite mounting financial problems, Trump maintained a facade of success, continuing to live a lavish lifestyle and promote himself as a master dealmaker. However, behind the scenes, his companies were struggling to make debt payments. In 1990, Trump's Taj Mahal Casino, which he had dubbed the eighth wonder of the world, filed for bankruptcy, unable to generate enough revenue to cover its operating costs and debt payments. The Taj Mahal bankruptcy was a major blow to Trump's reputation. It revealed the fragility of his business empire and exposed his penchant for risky financial dealings. Trump was forced to relinquish control of the casino to his creditors, although he was able to retain a stake in the property. The bankruptcy also strained his relationship with his father, who had provided loans and guarantees to keep his son's businesses afloat. The 1990s were a period of retrenchment and reinvention for Donald Trump. He was forced to sell off assets, restructure his businesses, and cede control of some of his prized properties. His net worth, once estimated to be in the billions, plummeted. However, Trump remained a master of self-promotion, spinning his setbacks as temporary challenges and maintaining his public persona as a successful businessman. As Donald Trump's real estate empire faltered in the 1990s, he sought new avenues to maintain his wealth and his public profile. He expanded his brand into new areas, licensing his name to a variety of products, from bottled water to steaks to a for-profit university. However, it was his foray into reality television that would prove to be his most successful reinvention. In 2004, Trump partnered with Mark Burnett, the creator of the hit reality show Survivor, to launch The Apprentice. The show, which premiered on NBC, featured a group of aspiring entrepreneurs competing for a chance to work for Trump. Each week, contestants would be assigned a business task, with one contestant ultimately being fired by Trump in his signature boardroom. The Apprentice was an immediate ratings success, propelling Trump to a new level of fame and introducing him to a new generation of Americans. The show's format played to Trump's strengths, allowing him to showcase his business acumen, his larger-than-life personality, and his catchphrase, "You're fired." Trump's role on The Apprentice helped to rehabilitate his image, transforming him from a struggling businessman into a cultural icon. The Apprentice also provided Trump with a powerful platform to promote his brand and his political views. He frequently used the show to promote his businesses, and he began to espouse increasingly conservative political views, criticizing politicians and policies that he disagreed with. While Trump's political ambitions were still largely dormant at this point, his time on The Apprentice laid the groundwork for his future entry into politics. Donald Trump's flirtation with politics predated his reality TV stardom. In the 1980s, he toyed with running for office, often dismissed as publicity stunts. In 1999, he announced his candidacy for president on the Reform Party ticket. His platform echoed populist themes, but he faced criticism and withdrew. This experience honed his skills for his 2016 campaign. Donald Trump's embrace of the birtherism conspiracy theory marked a turning point in his political evolution. He questioned Obama's birthplace, resonating with a segment of the public. This controversy paved the way for his 2016 presidential campaign. As the 2016 presidential election cycle approached, Donald Trump began to lay the groundwork for his own campaign. He had learned valuable lessons from his failed Reform Party bid and his embrace of the birtherism conspiracy theory. He understood the power of tapping into public anger and frustration, and he recognized the importance of crafting a message that resonated with voters who felt ignored or left behind by the political establishment. Trump's platform began to take shape around a set of core populist themes. He railed against free trade agreements, arguing that they had cost American jobs and benefited foreign countries at the expense of American workers. He promised to bring back manufacturing jobs from overseas and to renegotiate trade deals to secure more favorable terms for the United States. Immigration became another central focus of Trump's campaign. He painted a bleak picture of a country overrun by illegal immigrants who were taking jobs from American citizens, committing crimes and straining social services. He promised to build a wall along the US-Mexico border and to make Mexico pay for it. He also vowed to crack down on illegal immigration by increasing deportations and implementing stricter border security measures. Trump's rhetoric on trade and immigration resonated with a segment of the American electorate, particularly white working-class voters who had been hit hard by economic globalization and who felt increasingly marginalized in a rapidly changing society. His message was simple, direct, and emotionally powerful. America was in decline, and only he could make it great again. Section 4, Make America Great Again, the Campaign Trail Blitz. On June 16, 2015, Donald Trump announced his candidacy for President of the United States. His announcement speech contained the key elements of his campaign message. He painted a bleak picture of America, beset by problems. He promised to make America great again. Trump's entry into the Republican primary was met with disbelief. Pundits dismissed his candidacy as a publicity stunt. The Republican establishment viewed him with suspicion. However, Trump quickly upended the race. He connected with voters on an emotional level. His rallies were massive, drawing tens of thousands. He dominated the news cycle. Trump's campaign was unconventional and chaotic. He relied on a small inner circle of advisors. He was undisciplined, frequently making inflammatory remarks. His unorthodox approach proved to be an asset. Section 5, Defying the Odds, Upending the Establishment. As the Republican primary contest progressed, Donald Trump defied expectations and dispatched one opponent after another. He tapped into a deep well of anger and resentment among Republican voters, many of whom felt that the party had abandoned its core principles and ignored their concerns. His message of economic nationalism, his promise to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C., and his outsider status resonated with voters who were tired of business as usual. Trump's opponents struggled to find an effective way to counter his unconventional campaign. Jeb Bush, the son and brother of former presidents, tried to position himself as the establishment alternative, but his campaign never gained traction. Marco Rubio, a young senator from Florida, attempted to outflank Trump on the right, but he was undone by his own gaffes and by Trump's relentless attacks. Ted Cruz, a senator from Texas, emerged as Trump's most formidable challenger. Cruz was a skilled debater and a darling of the Tea Party movement, but he was also deeply unpopular with many of his colleagues in the Senate. Trump effectively painted Cruz as a liar and a hypocrite, undermining his credibility with voters. By the spring of 2016, it was clear that Trump was the frontrunner for the Republican nomination. He had won a series of decisive victories in early primary states, and his opponents had failed to unite behind a single alternative. In May 2016, after Cruz and John Kasich, the governor of Ohio, suspended their campaigns, Trump became the presumptive Republican nominee. Section 6, A Nation Divided, the Aftermath. Donald Trump's victory in the Republican presidential primary sent shockwaves through the American political establishment. Many within the Republican Party remained deeply opposed to his candidacy, viewing him as unfit for office and a threat to the party's long-term viability. Democrats, meanwhile, were both alarmed and energized by Trump's rise, viewing him as a dangerous demagogue, but also as a potentially beatable opponent. The 2016 general election campaign was one of the most divisive and contentious in American history. Trump continued to campaign on the same populist themes that had propelled him to victory in the Republican primary, promising to make America great again by bringing back jobs, building a wall on the US-Mexico border, and putting America first in foreign policy. Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, ran on a platform of experience and competence, emphasizing her record as Secretary of State and her deep understanding of policy issues. She argued that Trump was temperamentally unfit for office, and that his policies would be disastrous for the country. The campaign was dominated by personal attacks, scandals, and controversies. Trump repeatedly made sexist and offensive remarks about women, and he was accused of sexual assault by multiple women. Clinton was dogged by questions about her use of a private email server while Secretary of State, and her campaign was rocked by the release of hacked emails that revealed internal divisions and unflattering portrayals of her opponent, Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump's presidency began in a whirlwind of activity, executive orders, and controversy. From the outset, he made it clear that he intended to shake up Washington and overturn the policies of his predecessor, Barack Obama. His first 100 days in office were marked by a flurry of executive actions, cabinet appointments, and legislative battles, setting the stage for a tumultuous 4 years. Donald Trump campaigned on a promise to put America first in foreign policy, arguing that the United States had been taken advantage of by its allies, and that it was time to pursue a more nationalist approach to global affairs. He promised to withdraw from or renegotiate trade deals, reduce American military commitments overseas, and take a more confrontational stance with rivals like China and Iran. Trump's America First foreign policy was met with a mixture of apprehension and confusion by America's allies. European leaders were particularly concerned by his skepticism towards NATO and his praise for Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump repeatedly questioned the value of the transatlantic alliance, suggesting that the United States was shouldering too much of the burden for European defense. Trump's relationship with Putin was a source of constant controversy. Despite U.S. intelligence agencies' conclusion that Russia had interfered in the 2016 election to help Trump win, he repeatedly praised Putin as a strong leader, and dismissed the allegations of Russian interference as a hoax. Trump's America First approach also extended to trade policy. He imposed tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union, sparking trade wars that hurt American businesses and consumers. He withdrew the United States from the Iran nuclear deal, arguing that it was too lenient on Iran and that he could negotiate a better deal. Immigration was a central theme of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. He promised to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, increase deportations of undocumented immigrants, and implement a Muslim ban prohibiting travel from several Muslim-majority countries. These proposals were popular with his base of supporters, but drew condemnation from civil rights groups and many Democrats who argued that they were discriminatory and inhumane. One of Trump's first acts as president was to sign an executive order banning travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. The order sparked chaos and confusion at airports across the country, as travelers were detained and protests erupted. The travel ban was quickly challenged in court and ultimately blocked by multiple federal courts. Trump's signature campaign promise, the border wall, also proved to be a source of controversy and frustration. He insisted that Mexico would pay for the wall, but Mexico refused. Trump's attempts to secure funding for the wall from Congress led to a partial government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. The Trump administration also implemented a zero-tolerance policy at the border, separating thousands of migrant children from their parents. Donald Trump and congressional Republicans argued that tax cuts and deregulation would unleash economic growth, create jobs, and boost wages for American workers. They passed a $1.5 trillion tax cut bill in 2017, which disproportionately benefited corporations and wealthy Americans. They also rolled back regulations on businesses, including environmental protections, financial regulations, and consumer protections. The tax cuts and deregulation did lead to a period of economic growth, with unemployment falling to historic lows and the stock market reaching record highs. However, the benefits of this growth were not evenly distributed. Wages for most workers remained stagnant, while corporate profits soared. The tax cuts also added trillions of dollars to the national debt, raising concerns about the long-term sustainability of the U.S. economy. Trump's trade policies, which included imposing tariffs on goods from China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union, had a mixed impact on the economy. The tariffs did protect some American jobs in industries like steel and aluminum, but they also raised prices for consumers and hurt American businesses that rely on imported goods. Trump's economic policies were praised by his supporters, who argued that he had fulfilled his promise to make America great again by creating jobs and boosting the economy. Donald Trump's presidency was overshadowed by the Mueller investigation, a special counsel probe into Russian interference in the 2016 election, and possible obstruction of justice by Trump and his associates. The investigation, led by former FBI Director Robert Mueller, lasted for nearly 2 years and cast a long shadow over Trump's presidency. The Mueller report, released in redacted form in April 2019, did not find sufficient evidence to establish that Trump or his campaign had conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to interfere in the election. However, the report did not exonerate Trump on obstruction of justice, outlining 10 instances in which Trump may have obstructed justice. The release of the Mueller report sparked a political firestorm. with Democrats calling for Trump's impeachment and Republicans defending him. Attorney General William Barr, appointed by Trump, issued a summary of the report that downplayed its findings on obstruction of justice, leading to accusations that he was acting as Trump's personal lawyer rather than the nation's top law enforcement official. The Mueller investigation was followed by an impeachment inquiry launched by House Democrats in September 2019. The inquiry focused on Trump's efforts to pressure Ukraine to investigate his political rival, Joe Biden, and his family. Trump was impeached by the House of Representatives in December 2019 on charges of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. However, he was acquitted by the Senate in February 2020, with all but one Republican senator voting against removing him from office. In early 2020, the United States was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, a global health crisis that would have a profound impact on the country. The Trump administration's response to the pandemic was widely criticized as being slow, chaotic, and often contradictory. Trump initially downplayed the severity of the virus, comparing it to the flu and suggesting that it would disappear quickly. He resisted calls to implement social distancing measures and to ramp up testing, arguing that they would harm the economy. He also promoted unproven treatments for the virus, such as hydroxychloroquine. As the virus spread rapidly across the country, the Trump administration struggled to provide states with adequate testing supplies and personal protective equipment. Hospitals were overwhelmed with patients, and the death toll mounted. The pandemic also had a devastating impact on the economy, as businesses were forced to close and millions of Americans lost their jobs. The Trump administration's response to the pandemic became a major issue in the 2020 presidential election, with Trump's Democratic opponent, Joe Biden, accusing him of mismanaging the crisis and costing American lives. Trump, meanwhile, defended his record, arguing that he had taken decisive action to combat the virus and that the economy was recovering. The 2020 presidential election was one of the most consequential in American history. Trump faced Biden amidst a pandemic and a divided nation. Record turnout saw historic votes for both. Trump cast doubt on the election's integrity, claiming widespread fraud. His rhetoric resonated with his base but alienated moderates, heightening tensions. As Biden led in key states, Trump ramped up attacks, filing lawsuits. Despite legal setbacks, Trump refused to concede, urging supporters to fight. His inflammatory rhetoric set the stage for unprecedented events in the weeks to come. On January 6, 2021, Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, incited by his false claims of a stolen election. The insurrection shook the nation, leaving an indelible stain on Trump's legacy. Earlier, Trump urged his supporters to march to the Capitol and fight to overturn the results. The mob breached the Capitol, forcing lawmakers to flee. The insurrection resulted in 5 deaths and numerous injuries. There was widespread bipartisan condemnation of Trump's role. Despite the January 6th insurrection and his second impeachment, Donald Trump retained his grip on the Republican Party. His loyal base viewed him as a populist hero fighting a corrupt establishment. This support allowed him to shape the GOP's agenda and influence the political landscape. As Donald Trump transitioned from the presidency to private life, he faced a growing number of legal challenges and investigations. These legal woes threatened to tarnish his reputation and potentially lead to criminal charges. One significant threat was the Manhattan District Attorney's investigation into his business practices. This probe expanded to potential financial crimes, including tax and bank fraud. Prosecutors examined whether Trump inflated asset values for loans and tax breaks. The New York State Attorney General also investigated similar financial allegations. They looked into whether Trump misled lenders and insurers about asset values. Trump also faced scrutiny for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. The Justice Department investigated his role in the January 6th insurrection. A special grand jury in Georgia examined his efforts to overturn Biden's victory. Despite facing a mountain of legal troubles and being banned from major social media platforms, Donald Trump remained a formidable force in American life, leveraging his enduring popularity among his base to build a lucrative post-presidential brand. He transformed his political movement into a money-making machine, capitalizing on his supporters' loyalty and their deep distrust of traditional media and institutions. Trump's primary vehicle for fundraising and communication with his base was his Save America PAC, a political action committee that he established shortly after the 2020 election. The PAC, which aggressively solicited donations from Trump's supporters, quickly amassed a war chest of tens of millions of dollars, much of which came from small-dollar donors. Trump used the PAC to fund his travel, rallies, and legal expenses, as well as to support candidates who aligned with his views. In addition to his PAC, Trump also launched a number of other business ventures, capitalizing on his name recognition and his image as a populist outsider. He started his own social media platform, Truth Social, after being banned from Twitter and Facebook, claiming that it would be a bastion of free speech. He also launched a subscription-based streaming service, Trump Media and Technology Group, which promised to offer conservative-leaning news and entertainment programming. Trump's post-presidential business ventures were not without controversy. Critics accused him of using his political platform to enrich himself and his family, blurring the lines between politics and profiteering. They also raised concerns about his social media platform's potential to spread misinformation and incite violence, given his history of making false and inflammatory statements. The question of whether Donald Trump would run for president again in 2024 loomed large over American politics, casting a long shadow over the Biden presidency and shaping the calculations of both Democrats and Republicans. Trump himself did little to discourage speculation about another run, repeatedly hinting at his intentions and teasing his supporters with the possibility of a comeback. Trump's decision on whether to run in 2024 would depend on a number of factors, including his health, his legal situation, and the political landscape. A successful prosecution in any of the criminal investigations he faced could potentially derail his political ambitions, while a perceived weakness in the Biden presidency or a favorable political climate could embolden him to run again. A Trump candidacy in 2024 would have profound implications for American democracy. His continued promotion of the big lie about the 2020 election, his attacks on democratic institutions, and his willingness to exploit racial and cultural divisions had eroded trust in the electoral process and deepened political polarization. Another Trump campaign would likely further exacerbate these trends, putting additional strain on American democracy. The road to 2024 remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: Donald Trump's influence on American politics was far from over. His brand of populist nationalism, his ability to tap into cultural anxieties, and his willingness to challenge democratic norms had fundamentally reshaped the political landscape. Whether he ran for president again or not, his legacy would continue to shape American politics for years to come. Donald Trump's impact on American politics and society is undeniable, leaving in his wake a legacy of disruption that continues to reverberate long after his departure from the Oval Office. His presidency was a period of constant upheaval, characterized by a relentless assault on established norms, a deepening of political polarization, and a fundamental shift in the Republican Party's identity. Love him or loathe him, Trump's tenure as the 45th president has left an indelible mark on the American psyche, forcing a national reckoning with its own values, its institutions, and its place in the world. From the moment he descended the golden escalator in Trump Tower to announce his candidacy, Trump upended the political landscape, shattering conventions and challenging long-held assumptions about the nature of presidential leadership. His brash, often offensive rhetoric, his disdain for expertise and experience, and his willingness to exploit racial and cultural divisions resonated with a segment of the electorate who felt ignored or left behind by the political establishment, propelling him to an unlikely victory in 2016. Trump's presidency was marked by a constant stream of controversies, scandals, and policy shifts that kept the nation on edge. His America First foreign policy, characterized by protectionist trade policies, skepticism towards international alliances, and a transactional approach to diplomacy, alienated allies and emboldened adversaries. His domestic agenda, focused on tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation of businesses, and restrictions on immigration, further exacerbated economic inequality and deepened social divisions. Throughout his presidency, Trump demonstrated a blatant disregard for the norms and conventions of his office, attacking the media, undermining the judiciary, and casting doubt on the integrity of American elections. His rhetoric and actions, often bordering on authoritarianism, tested the guardrails of American democracy, raising profound questions about the resilience of its institutions and the future of its political system. Donald Trump's impact on American politics is undeniable, leaving a legacy of disruption. His presidency was a period of constant upheaval, characterized by a relentless assault on norms and a deepening of political polarization. Love him or loathe him, Trump's tenure forced a national reckoning with its values and institutions. Donald Trump's presidency saw a sustained assault on American democratic norms and institutions. His attacks on the media, attempts to obstruct justice, and efforts to undermine elections threatened the rule of law. By discrediting news organizations, Trump aimed to undermine public trust in a free press. His refusal to commit to a peaceful transfer of power and incitement of the January 6th insurrection were grave threats to democracy. Donald Trump's presidency transformed the Republican Party, shifting it from fiscal conservatism and free trade to populist nationalism and protectionism. This shift, driven by grassroots activism and Trump's dominance, left the GOP divided. White working-class voters feeling left behind embraced Trump's message. GOP lawmakers fearing primary challenges aligned with Trump. The party's focus shifted to protectionism and populism, questioning democratic norms. As the dust settled on Donald Trump's presidency, the question of his long-term impact on American politics and society remained open. Would his brand of populist nationalism, his disregard for democratic norms, and his ability to exploit cultural and racial divisions continue to shape the political landscape? Or would his presidency prove to be an aberration, a brief, tumultuous interlude in American history? The answer, in all likelihood, lies somewhere in between. While Trump himself may fade from the political scene, the forces that propelled him to power, economic anxiety, cultural resentment, and a deep distrust of institutions, remain potent. His presidency has exposed deep fissures within American society, fissures that will continue to be exploited by politicians seeking to tap into the same grievances and anxieties that fueled Trump's rise. The Republican Party, once a bastion of conservative principles, has been fundamentally transformed by Trumpism. Its future uncertain as it grapples with the legacy of his presidency. Will it continue down the path of populism and nationalism, embracing Trump's brand of politics, or will it seek to return to its roots, offering a more traditional conservative vision for the country? The challenge for American democracy in the post-Trump era is to address the underlying grievances and anxieties that fueled his rise, while simultaneously reaffirming its commitment to democratic norms, institutions, and values. This will require a concerted effort from both Democrats and Republicans, from elected officials and ordinary citizens alike, to bridge divides, restore trust, and rebuild a sense of shared purpose. The future of American democracy may well depend on